Set in the 1960s, the movie begins with a soldier named Franklin returning home after serving in West Germany. Unfortunately, he is not greeted with good news. His father has passed away suddenly, and he didn't even have the chance to say goodbye. As he walks through his home, Franklin nostalgically recalls his youth when he was a rebel without a cause, expelled from every high school. In the end, his father had to send him to the army hoping he'd straighten out. Franklin was clearly not thrilled with that idea, but today he thanks his father for his insistence. During the wake, the soldier, engulfed in tears, returns to his father a ring that once belonged to him, that will accompany him on his journey to the beyond. After the burial, the protagonist returns to Germany to resume his army service, or at least that's his excuse to distance himself from his family and fully indulge in his greatest. Alcohol in a military bar. Franklin loses his temper, and it worsens when an officer asks him to calm down. The soldier even climbs onto the tables, proclaiming he is a free man. As soon as he gets up, the protagonist falls again, discovering that a shard of glass has lodged in his head. Even though it wasn't that serious, his stunt at the bar won't go unpunished, especially when he's a soldier who should set an example abroad. Therefore, his lawyer gets him the best deal considering the circumstances: 90 days in a military prison, where he must behave to keep his rank. At first, it seems easy for Franklin, despite some annoyances. However, his view changes when he meets Sergeant Major Otis B. McKinney. The Prison 1 commander is a despotic man who won't make things easy. Plus, his natural arrogance doesn't help. Upon his first clash with McKinney, he sends him to a special ward. At least for a guy like him, it is when Franklin enters the ward that he realizes what the sergeant was referring to. This place belongs to the self-proclaimed Soul Patrol, a squad of African-American soldiers. Franklin, for obvious reasons, doesn't quite fit in with them. Similarly, the leader of the patrol, Corporal Roosevelt Stokes, is willing to start their coexistence on the right foot. In response, Franklin offers him one of his cigarettes, but he takes the whole pack. Right foot, nothing. When the protagonist is about to confront him, Stokes puts him in his place by introducing his squad members one by one. The intellectual Bryce, the comedian Lawrence, the muscle of the web team, and we end with Crane, a man of few words who can only converse with God. Franklin replies that it's a pleasure to meet them, and with that, snatches the pack of cigarettes from Stokes. Brave and stubborn, given that he's a tough nut to crack, Stokes drops the hypocrisy and assures him that he wants to keep the peace, meaning he must respect the rule of their facility and be one of them, or at least make an attempt. The next day, the inmates are woken up scandalously by the guards, while McKinney takes charge of examining their good performance. Their appearance, rather, and focuses more on the smallest details just to punish them without reason. Regarding the new guy, the sergeant reminds him he has 89 days to rehabilitate him, so he must punish him whenever he can, while to him it seems like torture. It is clear that his companions are already used to it. They even have a song for the punishments. It's in these moments when Crane opens his mouth. I see why he keeps silent. We are not worthy to listen to him. In all this, Franklin merely observes them with curiosity, as he had never before seen any soldier take such enthusiasm in these things. Later, while most inmates train as usual, African Americans are sent to put up a fence in a nearby field under a scorching sun. Franklin isn't spared either, of course. During the work, the soldier notices an old abandoned mill that seems to be repairable. Nevertheless, the guard assigned to watch him orders him to immediately move away from the mill, ignoring his words that he was just taking a look. The protagonist is forced to return to his companions, although this time he shows interest in their conversation and even shares some laughs with them. Upon their return to the prison, they are met by McKinney, who makes it clear to Franklin that these guys are not his kind, so he better not get too attached to them, as they will eventually turn their backs on him. When saluting the flag, Franklin raises his hand as usual, although his colleagues, behind the sergeant's back, signal him to lower his hand. After that, the protagonist asks the most sensible guard in the place, Mark, if it would be possible to convince McKinney to repair the mill in the field. Later, Franklin returns from a shower to find his lighter, the one his father gave him, is gone. Just then, he sees Webb on his bunk. When he politely asks for the lighter, Webb doesn't respond, and when he asks more forcefully, he responds. He even demands Franklin apologize for calling him a thief. Outraged, Franklin says he's crazy if he thinks he deserves an apology. That must have hurt. As soon as he gets out of the shower, Stokes tries to bring some order to the matter, but Franklin returns the favor to Webb. Stokes knows he can't stop what's coming. During the sergeant's next inspection, the protagonist sports a black eye that clearly goes unnoticed. Immediately, McKinney asks him who was responsible, to which he replies that he just had an accident in the bathroom. Knowing it's a lie, the sergeant asks him why he defends these people, since they wouldn't do the same for him. Franklin remains silent, so the sergeant punishes him along with his companions with push-ups. However, not even that is able to break the protagonist, so the sergeant understands that he has chosen a side and, in his opinion, he chose the wrong one. Back in the pavilion, Franklin shows interest in the reasons behind his companion's convictions. Lawrence, in his case, is accused of abusing a girl, and I emphasize the word accusation, as he truly did not do it. In reality, he went out for drinks with a woman and had her full consent. But at dawn her husband appeared, and she conveniently forgot what happened. It was easier to point to the man of color during his work in the field. Franklin gets to work on the mill with Webb. Since his father raised him in a rural area, he believes this honors his memory that at nightfall, the protagonist tries his luck at uncovering Stokes, although he refuses to explain why he was condemned. On the other hand, Bryce is honest about her crime, confessing that after an altercation with McKinney, he planted a weapon on her and accused her of conspiring to kill him. Another case like Lawrence. They wish they had a 90-day sentence like the white guy. Changing the scene, an erratic McKinney heads to the bar after arguing on the phone with his wife about raising their troubled son. Beer after beer, the sergeant starts losing his mind and takes it out on Franklin, trying to cross the fence to his pavilion. Lamar immediately goes out to stop him, but McKinney keeps going and tries to climb the fence. He can't. In the coming days, the protagonist becomes more integrated into the Soul Patrol, while also handling the mill repairs. The best part is you also learn the patrol's march. It doesn't have their ease, but it's something. One day, the protagonist receives a visit from an army colleague who informs him that in a month they will attack Vietnam, for which they will need many soldiers. That is to say, Franklin could return to the front sooner than expected. When saying goodbye, his colleague notes he's changed a lot, not for worse, but the opposite. Speaking about the assault on Vietnam, McKinney summons Franklin to warn him that his return to battle is in jeopardy. While he values his work at the mill, he started the project behind their backs. Don't mention his arrogance. According to the sergeant, Franklin has much more to offer, pointing out that he is different from the ruffians he lives with. The soldier stops him there, saying he's no different from Stokes and the others. He's one of them. McKinney, however, is very different. He wishes he had half the honor of the Soul Patrol. Hearing that, the sergeant dismisses him immediately before he does something reckless. Of course, this won't end like this. The very next day, McKinney interrupts the patrol's work of the mill with a signed order stipulating that they must abandon the project immediately. The inmates returned disappointed to the pavilion. They finally had something that gave meaning to their daily lives, and it was taken away just like that. On their next visit to the field, the soldiers, out of frustration, resume their work on the mill with the C's approval. They simply ignore the other guard. Together they finish the mill, and it starts pumping water like a spring again. They've done it. That night, during a heavy storm, an intoxicated McKinney takes them out of their pavilion for a drill. With little more explanation, the sergeant takes them to the mill field, while the guard expresses doubts about the drill. In such adverse conditions, the sergeant forces the patrol to march while hurling racist comments at them, including Franklin. After all, he is one of them. At that moment, the sergeant orders Franklin to step forward and asks him when things started to fall apart between the two of them. The curious thing is that he refers to him as John, his son. The sergeant snaps out of his confusion upon seeing Crane climbing the mill. He tries to shoot him with his pistol, but fortunately it wasn't loaded. In the middle of the mud, the sergeant finds the magazine that had fallen. Sleeper! Tired of running, Crane immediately comes down and runs with all his might toward McKinney. Stoke and the others subdue the sergeant, but it was already too late. The bullet ended up in Crane's head. Franklin couldn't save him either. His companions mourn his death, unable to console each other. They have lost the best of them. As a result of these events, Franklin's sentence is withdrawn, yet he remains in prison in memory of Crane. McKinney, for his part, is tried in a military court where the Soul Patrol presents their version of events. Unfortunately, the sergeant's defense is better than expected, claiming that he was not in his right mind and shot an inmate believing he was escaping. When presenting his testimony, Franklin falters under so many questions and ends up unintentionally giving credit to the defense of the accused. In the end, McKinney's only punishment is being transferred to another military base. Disappointed, Stoke and his group mention to the protagonist that today he looks quite pale. Franklin tries to apologize as best he can, but they ignore his words. Before going to Vietnam, the protagonist pays one last visit to McKinney, who has already completely succumbed to his madness. He's not worth saving. After that, Franklin tries his luck again with the Soul Patrol. They don't even turn to look at him. That's why he believed, because Webb returns to give him back his lighter and wish him luck on behalf of his comrades.
Oh, don't you know that's the sound of a man working.
And that's how this great movie ends. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and thanks.